haircut, too. Have you noticed?
Looks like a kid again.
Looks like a-
Okay,
Let's go.
Okay, Ed.
You are.
I guess we're not getting home.
Hey, what is this? Ed, what's going on, man?
I'm trying.
9 o'clock, I said we'd
We
be
never had to work this late when Adrian was chair.
Yeah, right, sure.
All right, I believe there was a gentleman who wanted to speak. Oh, there you go. Did you state your name? and
Yes,
spell your
Bob
last name?
Bullock, Bullock,
And your address, Bob?
22 Sandy Hill Road, Comac, New York.
Thank you.
All right. Just had some concerns. I've worked in nursing homes and assisted livings and lived near them in Nassau County. And the ones that I've been associated with have much more open space. I know it's limited here. That's the thing. I don't see a lot of open space on this. I'm in the back, which is non-human area, as it says on there. You can't walk on there. And just looking at it from the front, there is not a lot of open space to the sides or anything. You're trying to put a building that should go on 5 acres into 2.5 acres. Now, also, employee parking. There's going to be 3 shifts of employees. You're going to have food people. You're going to have housekeeping. You're going to have nursing. All of them are going to take up a lot of spaces there. There's no parking on the streets around there unless they're going to go into Northgate Shopping Center. Delivery trucks. When I worked in the nursing home and assisted living, constant delivery trucks, linens, food. Every day they were delivering something. So where are these trucks going to drop stuff off? And again, with the containers, are they going to come to pick up the dumpsters? Where do they come to pick up the dumpsters? In the driveway there? Are they going to take it out, clean it? We cleaned it every day when they took a dumpster away. That's got to be addressed with that. That's basically it. The noise from all of that stuff, there should be a better buffer. It seems like the sewage plant will not be so much of an issue as noise and trucks, deliveries, parking, et cetera.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Is there anyone else? Nope. Good evening.
Jane Lombardo, Lombardo, 41 Sandy Hill Road, Comac. I also live in the community to the north of the proposed assisted living facility, and I definitely applaud the need for assisted living for memory impaired people. There's just nothing available. There's not very much available on Long Island, and certainly not in our area. My concern is the noise. This is my backyard we're talking about. It's pretty much literally my backyard. My husband and I truly enjoy our deck. We enjoy the birds and watching everything. And we'd like good neighbors that are fairly quiet. And I know assisted living is, like the gentleman before me, I'm concerned about the noise of the trucks, the trash, the deliveries. I think there'll be enough parking. They don't generally have a lot of visitors at these facilities, and I think you'll have enough for the staff. But I'm concerned about the noise and the smell. So if you can squeeze it into this little space, go for it. I just am concerned with the buffer for the noise.
All right,
Thank you.
Anyone else? Please. Again, state your name, spell your last name, and give your address, please. for
My
the
name
record.
is Fred Kleeman, Kleeman. I live at 38 Sandy Hill Road, Comac, New York.
Thank you.
I represent I'm the president of the Homeowners Association at Pinewood Estates. And my first concerns are the residents of Pinewood Estates. My concern is when they come to collect that waste, how are they going to get there? There doesn't seem to be any plans for roads to even get to the waste management system. Is it going to be noisy when they pump it out with loud pumps that these pumping trucks have? What about odor? Are we going to smell odor? Because like Jane just said, it's my backyard too, because I live right near there. I paid a substantial amount of money for my residence, and I pay a high community assessment for maintaining it. I don't want to see it ruined by some other company coming in and not permitting me to enjoy my property. That's how I feel.
Right, thank you. Anyone else? No? Mr. Cordero, would you like to come back and answer some of those concerns?
Yes, I'll just try to answer some of the questions briefly, and then I'm going to ask Mr. Koch to address the issues on the sewage treatment plant, because that seems to be the primary concern. You know, I do want to point out that, you know, obviously we had to send out the letters as required by the code. We did send out letters to all of the people within the required radius. I did invite people to call me, so I know the attorney did say that, you know, he just heard this for the first time, which is true. I just met him when I walked in, but we did, you know, we did encourage people to call if they had questions, and we obviously would have shared copies of the plans. But we're happy to continue to work now that we've met him and that some of the neighbors here. You know, we're happy to work and inform them and as we move forward. So we'll start a dialogue. So I think that's all very positive. You know, again, people have mentioned the setback and only 75 feet. I just want to point out again, you know, the health department regulates setbacks of sewage treatment plants, and they've determined that the minimum setback should be 75 feet. We meet that requirement. This requirement, that's 100 feet, really has nothing to do with a sewage treatment plant. It's accessory buildings. This accessory building just happens to be a sewage treatment plant. So I don't want the board to, you know, to think that sewage treatment plants in the town of Smithtown should be 100 feet away from the property line. That the health department, of course, regulates that, and the number is 75. We actually meet that. As Mr. Vice Domini mentioned, you know, we will keep the opening to the south. You know, again, we want to be good neighbors. We will keep the building low. We've put that on the record. We will have the opening facing away from the property to the north. We will move the dumpster. I know that was on the record. They've indicated they want that dumpster away from their homes, and we'll move it. It'll be far in excess of the 100 feet, but we agreed to do 100 feet away. I also want to point out that, you know, there's some concern about, you know, what people were going to see in their backyard. You know, what's going to be there is this open space with this subterranean building with a small portion of it above ground, but otherwise it's really just going to be a field. That's the way these operate. It's just open space. The health department does not allow you to park on it. It doesn't allow you to put a building on it. It's just really open space. So it's a way of creating open space. So I think people will see, to the extent they could even see over the fence, because there is a fence there now, and we're proposing a 6-foot fence that would be solid and more landscaping. I don't think anybody can see. But if they could, what they'll see is open space on the other side of that fence.
What's depicted on your site plan now, those are the existing trees that are right. Do you plan on adding additional buffer in that area?
That's correct. That is correct. We will supplement what's there. There's some fairly significant pine trees that are all along here that were planted by the association, the association, the homeowners' property to the north. And to the extent that, you know, some of them are very large, and you know how they go. They kind of run their course and they start to get kind of straggly. We're happy to supplement them and add landscaping on our side. And we'll work with the neighbors to deal with that. We can, you know, we have ample property and we can plant it. That's not a problem. And again, the fence, somebody had asked about the fence. We'll put a solid fence up, 6 foot high. I also want to point out, and it's in one of the photographs in your booklet, the last page on the surrounding properties. You know, these properties from here to here, properties that, homes that are here, and actually there's a service road that's here, and this property, there's a berm that exists on this property that's about, you know, about six feet or so. So there's already a berm. So when you stand, let me see if I can point you to the right photograph. It's yeah, it's Exhibit 7. It should be the last. The picture's not so great. Yeah, you actually can see it in the second to last picture. You can see where the base. You can see where the base of the tree trunk starts, and you can see that they don't actually come down to the road. It's not the greatest picture, but when I was standing there, it's probably this high. So there's probably a 5-foot berm between this development and the road, and then the trees are planted on top of that. So there is already a buffer on their side, and again, we're happy to supplement it, but it's not like if you're standing on the property to the north that you're just gonna look over this field, because you can't see it now and you won't see it when it's built because of the berm and the existing landscaping. Okay, two other, somebody mentioned about parking. You know, we meet the code, and as one, you know, as the lady said, you know, unfortunately, people don't visit that often, you know, to see Alzheimer's patients. So it's a very, very low traffic generator, and there'll be more than enough parking on the site.
I think one of the residents was concerned about noise.
Yes. Again, there's, you know, this is one of the least noisy uses that you could have, particularly in a WSI district. You know, the building is, I think they said 155 feet roughly from the main building, 155 feet from the property line. But also, you know, I would point out that it's actually going to be quieter because the building, as you can see, you know, it's pretty wide, takes up most of the area here. That's going to block all the noise from Jericho Turnpike.
I think they were asking about the noise of the pumping.
Well, the pump, well, I'm going to leave that to Dale. I don't believe there's noise from the pump station, but I just, noise in general,
Right.
I think will be screened or blocked by the existence, and I'm talking about traffic noise along Jericho Turnpike. Right now,
Excuse
it's
me,
just a
Anthony,
flat
where do
field.
they access the structure for service and deliveries?
You're talking about this,
The front, the actual facility
The
itself.
building itself.
The building itself.
Dale, you want to explain that? In the front of the building. In the front of the building.
So all deliveries are brought in through the front?
At the front of the building.
Okay.
Basically, sorry, Max Ferentinos with Artis Senior Living. If I may, yeah, all deliveries, let me explain. Basically, you have the front of, I'm sorry, I'll take the mic. My kids always say I talk loud, but the common space in this building encompasses this front area here, roughly. Basically, everything beyond this point belongs to the residents. So the kitchen is in the front. Deliveries happen right here. This little walkway is to the kitchen. So basically, the balance of this building is secure, and I don't know how else to describe it, but it belongs to the, you know, it's the residents' space. So it's secure, it's private, it's, all the activity takes place back there, but as far as public spaces, that's all in the front of the building right here.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
No, excuse me.
So I think to answer your question, the deliveries arrive in the front of the building, so nowhere near the residences in the back. Before I turn it over, we are talking about deliveries now. According to Artis, I'm told that there are roughly 3 box trucks per week that deliver to the facility. No linen service. Everything is done on site, so you don't have delivery of linens. And for your medical waste, that might be on the site, gets picked up once a month. So not a lot of deliveries here, and they're not large trucks. They're box trucks or smaller, probably vans with some of the red bag waste, et cetera. So that's the extent of it. But I'd like to just turn it over to Dale to speak about the sewage treatment plan, because again, I think that's what people are interested in.
Do you want to restate my name? Okay. It's Dale Koch, K-O-C-H, with Bowler Engineering. So just to quickly touch on, I think there was one last question about the trash enclosure. So we had talked about moving it forward away from that rear residential property line. And again, the idea there is to keep more of the activity even farther towards the front of the building. So that service door in the front, people will be, you'll be able to take deliveries. You'll also be able to take trash out to the trash enclosure. And then as far as the sewage treatment plant goes, it's actually, it's not a chromoglass system. It uses carbon filters. It's a new technology. There are, like I said, 3 of them that have been approved. It's not a system that's going to be using pumps and aerators and all sorts of mechanical equipment that are going to create a lot of noise. It's going to be underground. If any of the mechanical equipment are going to create very little amounts of noise that over that 75-foot buffer, you're not going to hear anything. We designed a different treatment plant at another location, and it was an older system that used a lot of pumps, and at the 75-foot buffer, the decibel levels were, 60 to 80, which is a normal conversation between two people. And this system's even quieter.
How does the truck access the?
So
sewage treatment
right
plant?
now, we are in the initial design phases, but from what we've been told, they can park in the parking lot and run a hose to be able to pick it up. And that once a month frequency is a worst case scenario. That's based on worst case design for this type of use. We would really anticipate it to be less. So that's a peak design. It could be anywhere from once a month to once every 2 months.
One of the other things I believe they had asked for was the ability to get some information on the BESS system. Is it possible for you to drop off a spec sheet or a brochure on it at the planning department so they could maybe come up and take
Yeah,
a
I don't
look
see
at
that
it?
being a problem. Again, we are in the initial phases. We're working with the health department. The BESS system is it's a product that's built by a certain company that may change, maybe a new company in the next year, however long it takes us to finish the design. But we would be happy once, as we get a little farther along in the design, to drop off some material for the system. I'd also like to point out too, when it comes to smells and noises from these sewage treatment plants, the Department of Environmental Quality, they regulate sewage treatment plants. It's a department within the health department, Suffolk County Health Department. There's 195 sewage treatment plants throughout Suffolk County. So, you drive past them all the time, and there's an enormous one at the Smithhaven Mall just down the road. Whenever we drive into the Smithhaven Mall parking lot, I don't think you smell anything, and that's a significant system. So just to kind of give you a comparison into what goes on.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Obviously, there's no decision tonight. Okay. All right. Can I have a motion to close the hearing,
I'll
please?
make a motion to close the hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Thank you. That concludes the hearings for tonight.